Good afternoon to all the great gurus here and my dear learned colleagues. I am Dr. Chaya Devi from the institute started by Dr. B.K. Iyengar, renowned for Iyengar Yoga. So today I have the privilege of presenting the profile of Dr. Charan Singh ji. Dr. Charan Singh is the Chief Executive Officer of the Foundation of Economic Growth, EGROW Foundation. Previously, he has held the position of RBI chairperson at IIM Bangalore, specializing in comparative monetary policy and policy issues. His international experience includes serving as senior economist at the Independent Evaluation Office of the IMF in Washington, D.C. At Reserve Bank of India, he has held several leadership positions, including Research Director in Economic Policy and Debt Management. I think from there, debt management has become such an interesting topic. During his tenure from 1984 to 2009, Dr. Singh earned his PhD in economics from the University of North South Wales, Australia, and has visited and was a visiting scholar at both Harvard University and Stanford University. He has also taught at Anderson School of Management, UCLA. His governance role includes directorship at the National Housing Bank and NABARD Financial Services Limited. He is the honorary fellow at the SKOCH Development Foundation and a member of the IMF's Informal Advisory Group of Housing Sector Issue, a prolific writer on public policy, banking and fiscal matters. Dr. Singh has published extensively in reputed journals. He is the author of Debt Management in India. I think morning guest was suggesting us to read this book. And editor of Public Debt Management. He is currently documenting the history of Indian banks over century old. Sir, usually there is a proverb in Japan. They say banker is a person who lends us when the weather is, lends an umbrella when the weather is very fair and asks us to give back when it is raining. So today we shall see your viewpoint about the role of banking and financial inclusion for Viksit Bharat. I welcome Dr. Charan Singh ji and Dr. Gaurisha sir on the stage. I request Dharani ma'am and Jai Prabhakar sir to give the bouquet.
Thank you all for getting me over, CES and CMDR. It's an honor and privilege to be here with all of you, and I was really happy in the morning when I saw your inaugural program and I saw friends from Bangalore and from the Ministry of Finance come and speak. So that's, I think, a very good start to an excellent conclave on development issues. I'm going to speak to you, and I've slightly tweaked my topic myself without your permission. I'm going to speak to you on Viksit Bharat. And why I want to speak to you about Viksit Bharat is because I've been working on it, and I should tell you the background, probably that will explain my emotional connect with this topic. The Prime Minister started speaking about Viksit Bharat for about 2 years ago. But at EGROW Foundation, we were very fortunate that we were given this assignment by Niti Aayog about 5 years ago. We started looking at India at 2047. So we were told, can you think about India at 2047? Now, you know that 5 years ago, the whole economy and the whole world was in a very shaky situation. We could not even predict what will happen next year. And now to imagine what will happen in 2047 was not a joke. So we discussed with Niti Aayog, and then we said we can do one thing. We can discuss about India at 2036, 10 years or 15 years, and then project it to 2047. right? So we did that exercise for Niti Aayog. I'm very impressed with the way this Prime Minister works. While we as an academic institution, a think tank, worked for India at 2036 and 2047, he just did not leave it at that. He asked the bureaucrats at the secretary level and Government of India committee to also think about India at 2047. So while we were doing an academic exercise, they were doing also an exercise of India at 2047. And therein, many people were involved in the government. With us, many academicians were involved, about 15 best economists in the country were involved with us, and with them, the secretaries. And then, when the Prime Minister realized that this is not just a naive idea, this is just not hitting arrows in the sky, he started talking about it. Right? Now, this is something very important. The discussion on India or Viksit Bharat 2047 is not being done in thin air. There's lots of activity, research, public policy before it was even brought into the public domain. Something which we need to celebrate. Today morning there was a question on the politicians. So let me tell you, we cannot discount the politicians, especially the Prime Minister, who has run a state, a very fast forward growing state, for a number of years before taking over as the Prime Minister. So politicians also think and plan, and sometimes they come out with a visionary objective which we as trained economists or trained professionals may be shy of. So therefore, that question in the morning was a very good question, but I thought I also must share that politicians should not be taken with a discount. The other issue that I want to start my presentation is my own experience with a Japanese professor. Just before lunch, we had a speaker who extensively quoted from Japan because he was associated with a Japanese auto firm, Toyota. I'm referring to Mr. Parshuraman. In 2016 or so, I was a professor on the RBI chair at IIM Bangalore, and I got an invite from CII Delhi that there's a Japanese delegation visiting us. Can you please come and be part of that deliberation? So I was very surprised. I said, I'm in Bangalore, and just to come for one meeting with a Japanese delegation, which will be 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, why do you want me to fly in and out just for that one single meeting? They said, we want you to come because with the Japanese delegation, there is a professor. So long story short, I went for that meeting. I was around 54 at that time. The Japanese professor who visited them was around 84. Very experienced, very knowledgeable. The deliberations happened, rich discussions, CII and Indian delegate. And then the Japanese professor spoke, and he addressed me and said, Professor Singh, are you ready for a $5 trillion economy? Right? I had joined IIM Bangalore after working at the IMF in Washington as a senior economist. Obviously, I was ready. And I said, of course, I'm ready. And he said, no. He looked at my eyes and he said, no, you are not ready. And I said, why do you say that? I'm ready. Why do you say if not for a 5 trillion? I'm ready for a $10 trillion economy. So he said, no. Professor Singh, people who are ready for a $5 trillion economy or a $10 trillion economy, their style of talk, their conduct, their confidence is totally different. You are not. And then, of course, a lengthy discussion took place. Walking out of that meeting all the way till Bangalore, I was stunned. The Prime Minister of the country is saying he wants a $5 trillion economy, and we are not ready. The Japanese professor told me, and why I'm referring to the Japanese professor, because the Japanese were challenging the Americans in 1980. As students of public policy and economics, you would know of the lost decade Japan had, and the next lost decade Japan had, and the next lost decade Japan had. And to know those lost decades, you would probably Google and see Louvre Accord, where when Japanese were challenging the Americans to be almost as big an economy, the Americans went to the Europeans to say, save us. We are not in a position to handle this. So they signed accord after accord, and look up the Louvre Accord. You will know. So the Japanese professor was speaking out of experience, and he told me, Professor Singh, Indian economy will become $5 trillion economy first in the minds of the professors. Then in the minds of university PhD scholars. They will write on it, they will think about it, they will talk about monitorable targets about it. It will become a debate, it will be a newspaper item. And then everyone in the economy will be talking about a $5 trillion economy. Confidence in the step will be different from what you are walking now. And all the way back from Delhi to Bangalore, I was stunned. The Prime Minister of the country, the political authority, is giving you a license, and no academician, no academic university had taken up the challenge. It's nearly 8 years he has been talking about it, and now very few institutions have started organizing conclaves like this. So congratulations to you that you have taken up that challenge and started talking about it. Just imagine, there is a marriage in the family. The whole family is excited. There is planning. The whole town comes to know there is going to be a marriage in this family. And now imagine you are graduating from a poor economy to an advanced economy, and you have a target of 25 years. Is there any celebration? Is there any talk? Any discussion? We put our child in an engineering college for a 4-year degree, and as he gets admission, our anticipation, our planning, our thinking of his future plans, of their other things, the jobs, starts just 4 years in advance, and only in a single family. Here we are talking of a country. Have we thought, if India has to become Viksit Bharat, What will be the position of the states? Have you seen a plan for any state? Viksit Punjab, Viksit Jharkhand, Viksit Bihar. I haven't. To become a Viksit India, the steel industry, the iron, the cement, the manufacturing activities, each one of them will have to play a bigger role. Has anybody thought how much cement will be required if we have to be a Viksit Bharat? Anybody, any study that you have seen which says, this is my cement production today, this is my cement production in 2030, in 36, in 41, in 47. You can't produce cement overnight. Steel, chemicals, fertilizers, anything. Have you thought about the electricity that will be required to power India at 2047? Do we have that installed capacity? Do we have plans to install that capacity? I haven't seen. Who will fund India when you will be a developed country? Who will fund India? Banking? Have you seen any bank plan for next 20 years? Any bank? Has State Bank of India, the biggest bank in the country, come out with its plan? State Bank of India, 36, 41, 47. NBFCs, private banks, anybody? No. And we are talking of a great, great leap. And I'm going to show you some data in this. Finally, before I start my prepared PowerPoint, I want to tell you the story that I had to face, and it's a great morale in it. My lunch with Richard Cooper. I was, at that time, around 43 years. Richard Cooper, at that time, was around 80 years. Professor Richard Cooper was the advisor to President Nixon. All of you will not know who's Nixon, but you can Google and see President Nixon was President of America long, long, long time. And Professor Richard Cooper was professor, advisor, professor at Harvard, and advisor to President Nixon. I was doing my postdoctorate studies at Harvard. I'm narrating to the story of September 2003. When he came to know that I work in the Reserve Bank of India, and I was already a GM over there, he invited me for a sumptuous lunch. And I say sumptuous lunch because it was at the Harvard Club, out of this world, fantastic place. And over lunch, as we sat for lunch, please remember, September 2003. As we sat for lunch, Professor Cooper asked me, so, Dr. Charan, why do Americans respect Indians? Even if that question is asked today, you will be perplexed. But I was asked that question sitting across the table with Professor Cooper, and I was surprised. I thought he said it wrong. I have come all the way from India to study here. And he's asking me the other way around. Why Americans respect Indians? So I asked Professor Cooper, can you repeat your question? So he said, yes, yes, yes. I mean, why do Americans respect Indians? So then I told him many things, told him we know English, we know computers, we are good at IT. He kept looking at me and saying, no, Dr. Charan, no. Finally, time for dessert. And I told him, Professor Cooper, I'm sorry, you tell me. And he told me it was Pokhran. One Pokhran, we had the CIA on you, we had the satellites on you, we were watching every step of yours. How could you do Pokhran? How could you do Pokhran? Right? What is Pokhran? Pokhran is simply a test of your courage. You will know sanctions will come. You knew people are spying on you. You knew that it's an impossible task. But you had the courage to do it. The world respects courage. You respect a tiger because tiger has courage. The world respects courage. And it was strategy. Despite the CIA sitting on your head, it was the strategy. You had the courage, you had the conviction, you had an objective, and you achieved it. That's exactly what the world respects. Now, we are where we are. But we have the courage to think big. And that's my PowerPoint about. And while navigating through it, I'll share many more thoughts with you. Here is India. As you can see, the pre-colonial era. What was the pre-colonial era? The richest country on the planet. Richest country. Today, America accounts for 25% of world GDP. India accounted for 33% of world GDP. America became a powerful country in World War. It became the largest economy equivalent to the UK, the British economy, which they had the Commonwealth, from around 1900. But the British were not conceding, so world wars happened, and after the Second World War, America took over as the biggest economy in the world, about 75 years ago. India was the largest economy, accounting for 33% of world GDP for 1,000 years. Not 75 years, not 100 years. Before that, England, United Kingdom, was the biggest power, highest GDP in the world for about 150 years. America, so far, 75, and you have seen what's happening. China is already nudging it. Japan already challenged it. We are not far behind. India was the largest economy, accounting for about 33% of world GDP for 1,000 years. And then people from all across the planet came searching for India. Sometimes they'll reach some other place and call it some other India. Our decline in world GDP started, but we were still 25% of world GDP for next 2,000 years. Single country. richest for 3,000 years, 33% and 25%. What are these countries in front of us? 75 years richest, already challenged, and you brought the planet to a crisis where climate is becoming a danger point, and for 3,000 years we were the richest. No planet was in crisis, no climate crisis. There must be some strategy. There must be some thinking, and we haven't thought about it. Well, when the British came here, before already we were not under our own rule, there were other invaders who were here, and we were still 25% of world GDP when they came. And when they left us with about 3% of world GDP. They left us saying it's a very illiterate country. Poverty ratio when they left was 90%. Literacy rate when they left was 12%. And just imagine, this is the country which has given the longest epic Ramayana to the world. And the so-called literates haven't written an epic even 1/10 that size. And we didn't give one. Then we gave them Bharata. And we are the illiterate country. Just imagine. And we believed it. And we accepted it. Well, the colonial impact, you know, that they had taken away everything. Our status from 25% of world GDP to 2% of world GDP was absolutely pathetic. My own economic theory of India's freedom, which is very different from the theory of freedom which you know, is that when the British had looted us enough and there was nothing more left to loot, and when they had also sucked our blood and bone marrow, and living here for them was more expensive, running the administration, then leaving us, they decided to finally get out. So it has nothing to do with my economic theory of India's independences, the traders that they were, absolutely greedy, and the way they sucked our blood and our wealth. They simply could not live here because there was nothing more to suck. Our independence happened. We started planning, and we started growing, and we tackled poverty. And then 1991 was a threshold point. We did our reform. But the reforms that we did in 1991 were moving away from the mixed economy, but still had the flavor of a socialist economy. And they were not yielding the type of results which we would have demanded or expected. Comes 2014, there is a paradigm shift, and now you start galloping with new ideas and saying, fair enough, well, but we need to modernize our philosophy in terms of growth. So the Prime Minister started speaking about Viksit Bharat. As he came into power, he spoke about doubling the income and the $5 trillion economy, and then COVID happened, and then scholars were working, and now comes the story of the Viksit Bharat. As economists, when we say Viksit Bharat, developed India, it's obvious that we will now start thinking, what is a developed country? A developed country is a country which has per capita income of $14,000. Our per capita income today is around $2,500. So the economists started thinking in terms of the per capita income. The government did speak about the Panch Pran, In the Panch Prans, the 5 promises, one of it is development of India. Other 4 are more philosophical. The development of India, one of the Panch Prans, now has been translated on February 1 in the official document of the government, the union budget. The Viksit Bharat has been explained in the following points. 0 poverty, 100% quality school education, affordable health care and good health care, 100% skilled labor, 70% women in economic activity, and making India food basket of the world. So the Viksit Bharat has been precisely defined by the political authority that when we started talking about developed India, we have in mind empowered women, educated and healthy workforce, nobody living below the poverty line, and everybody having good opportunities, and the country is the food basket for the world, not only for ourselves. I think this economic definition of Viksit Bharat has not been discussed. I haven't seen anywhere since the budget has been presented, and it's almost 45 days, 50 days. Nobody has discussed. Now the government has given us their thought on what is Viksit. Can we translate these into quantifiable, monitorable parameters which we can then evaluate? I haven't seen. No academic institution, go back to the Japanese professor, seasoned, knowing it, and we as academic institutions did not accept this challenge. How are we going to get this Viksit Bharat? The government very clearly said we are going to have 4 engines. There's going to be an engine of agriculture, which is our traditional, and in the morning session you heard about how old agriculture has been in our country, and we have been devising ways, and people from across the world coming here to understand how agriculture is done without exploiting the land, without desertifying it, without wasting its water table, and without land losing the quality, which is under the high yield variety green revolution, as we call them. The second is MSMEs. The micro, small and medium enterprises are the backbone. They employ people. Many more people would go in them now as the demographic dividend is emerging. The third is investment. Right in the morning, Dr. Vishal spoke to you about ICOP, Incremental Capital Output Ratio. That's coming from investment. Investment has multiplier effect and has intergenerational implications. So investment, and finally, to grow, we will need foreign exchange. To earn foreign exchange, we need to do exports. Exports also help us to compete with the best of the best in the world. So the quality of products that you produce, or you have the urge to produce to successfully export, you have to maintain that quality, and therefore your production has to be of that quality. In the budget, because now we are talking of a full-fledged budget which came, and the target is very clear, the objective is very clear, Viksit Bharat, it talks about development measures. These development measures are very similar to the ones which we have just discussed. We are talking about agriculture, rural economy where more than 50% of India lives. We need to strengthen that. There has to be prosperity. We are talking of inclusive growth path. We have done Jan Dhan account. almost everybody in the country today has a bank account. They may not have an insurance. They may not have another financial products. But bank account invariably about 95% of the population has, which is a very good number. So we have to take everyone along, because if MSMEs have to flourish and blossom, anybody and everybody should be able to contribute into growth. Manufacturing has to grow, furthering Make in India. We have to support MSMEs. We have to ensure employment. And let me share one more thing with you. As we grow, become Viksit, we will have to keep in mind growth is contributed by two things. One is labor, you and me. Unhealthy labor will take sick leave. Even if they come to office, they will not be as efficient and productive. So you need healthy labor. Unskilled labor will not be able to do products which will compete with the best in the world. So you need skilled labor. Skilling can be education, skilling can be skills with your own hands to do things. So you need skilled and healthy labor. So therefore, you need employment which is of skilled and healthy labor. To produce, now you need capital. Labor, let me share one story with you. I happened to be in Trivandrum, Center for Development Studies, doing my study. Professor I.S. Gulati was the professor at Center for Development Studies, as well as heading the Planning Commission, the Planning Board of Kerala. The story is of 1988. He told me, Charan, you are from the Reserve Bank. I have been promised 1 lakh hands. 1 lakh hands. Voluntary, free, for developing Kerala. What can we do? So we brainstormed for many days and we reached a conclusion, just with hands we cannot do anything. We need spades. We need buses to bring people from one place to another. We will need other instruments. So we will need capital. To grow, to enhance output, you need labor and you need capital. That capital has to come from investing. And you have to invest in not only people, skills and health, even in the economy. And you have to invest in creativity, innovation, patents, ensuring energy supplies. As I have just mentioned, to have Viksit Bharat, you will need so much more electricity. Where will it come from? Solar, wind power, hydro, coal, nuclear, any planning? You need to have exports. I've already discussed that. And you need to nurture, ensure patents and nurture innovation. These are the development measures that you will need to do. So in the budget, the government announced, and I'm going to go fast on this because you know it, and if you even don't know, you can Google and get it anywhere, but I have many more things to share with you. So the government is thinking in terms of what to do with more income equality and reducing poverty. For quality education, thinking about various schools and thinking of excellence centers and using AI. For healthcare, there is the Ayush ministry, but one has to think in terms of aging population. 8% of the population, or 11 crore people, are above 60 years. One has to start thinking about them. Child care has to be seen. Women have to be taken care, and general health care has to be ensured. So there is lots of tasks. On skilling, again, whom do you want to skill? We want more women in the labor force, so you need to have female focused skilling centers. Then you have to have, like in the earlier sessions, you have to skill properly and reskill. Those have to be done. on women. The Prime Minister has this dream, and the world over it has been found that women are financially far more responsible than men. And therefore you must have seen, self-help groups and microfinance institutions, they are anchored and pivoted around women. And therefore, if you want women to enter productive economic activities, they have to be properly trained. As of now, we are not very good on female labor force participation. Farmers, because they are producing food. And we know what happened before 1969, when we had to go with a begging bowl. All of us know about PL 480, Public Law 480, and how the Americans would blackmail us on the food. And therefore we had to take shelter in the Green Revolution. So the farmers have to be taken care so that they give us the best food that we can. Discuss this philosophically. Now let me show you some hard data. This is India. As you see, I have done the color shades. We are going to be the fastest growing economy in the world. I, as an economist, working on economic issues for nearly 44 years now, am not satisfied with this, that we will be the fastest growing economy of the world. Sorry, I'm not satisfied. With the demographic dividend of 1 crore people entering workforce every year, where are the jobs? And we have the potential to grow more than 6.5%. China, for 30 years, from 1978 till 2008, without exception, grew at 10%. There were enough global turmoils even that time, enough uncertainties that time, but the strategy was clear. And one would work in case there is any turmoil, uncertainty, and come round the corner and deliver. We can do it. We have the young demographic India, trained. We can do it. So 6.5% is the fastest status that we have, but I think as far as we ourselves are concerned, we have to improve upon it. Here is something which I want you to very carefully see, very carefully see. I have done plotting of 4 countries. India, England, who looted us, China, with whom we are competing, and Americans, who are way ahead of us, but they account for 25% of world GDP. We were accounting for world GDP. We want to be there. Now please look at the figures carefully. My per capita income is $2,500. England is $50,000. America is $82,000. $82,000. China, $12,000. Even if I grow by 10%, I will add to my per capita income $250. If America grows at 1%, how much will they add? $816. I am growing at 10%. I am adding $250. They are growing at 1%. They will add $816. As we go ahead, the gap will keep widening. Therefore, very important to be modest. We want to grow. And I think we have to grow strategically. We have to plan strategically. Only then will we be able to narrow the gap. You are all welcome to do your arithmetic calculation. we are at 2,500. To enter the club of a developed country, today the per capita income is $14,000. If you are more than $14,000, you qualify to be a developed country. By 2047, that 14,000 will probably move to 17,000. Now you can do the arithmetic calculation yourself. At what rate should we grow to just enter the club? But if you are going to go at 6% or 6.5%, as you see here, India, and China is going to grow at 4.1%, and their per capita income is $12,000. On $12,000 you grow at 4%. On 2,500 you grow at 6%. You will not narrow the gap easily, right? So one has to be very, very clear as to what we mean by Viksit Bharat and how do we go. This is per capita income of many more countries that I have plotted for you, and therefore once again you have to realize we are at this point on per capita income yardstick. The government has given 6 parameters of Viksit Bharat, zero poverty, as I just narrated to you, but I am only taking one, per capita income. On per capita income we have a long way to go. How are we doing physically? We are doing very well on debt. By the way, these Western countries used to come and preach to us, what about your debt to GDP ratios? It should not be more than 60%, they would come and tell us. And now, after the global financial crisis, and especially after the COVID, look at their parameters. It's easy to preach a poor man, but very difficult to practice. And therefore I tell them, now, after COVID, if you have time, look up my speeches on Google, you will get them. They have to learn from us how we handled COVID and are still the fastest growing country, and we have not distorted our fiscal parameters. Have a look at their fiscal parameters. The golden rule is 60% of GDP, and now they are all above 100%. Whereas we are far more balanced. This is the deficit ratios. We have never hidden facts. We are a developing country. We have urge and desire to grow. We are spending money more than we can earn. When you are poor, how much can you tax your people? We have been borrowing, we agree. But we were told 3% is the golden rule. Where is the 3% for them now? Look, is anybody having 3%? Americans themselves have around 6%. After COVID, everything changed. And when we were fighting our battles, we were teased. Well, we are doing so well because of solid policies. That's why I say we have the capacity. We have the capability. We have the strength. We need to now bring in strategy. We will grow above 10%. We can do it. We can't let the opportunity go waste. On the external sector, the golden rule is 2.5% of GDP. We are well within that range. We are not an oil-rich country. We are not a mineral-rich country. We are a normal country which has all types of products for exports and all types of requirements for imports. So, given that 2.5% is a global yardstick, we are very much within that. When it comes to inflation, fascinating story here. I'll not be able to narrate the story in total today because of time. Let me just give you a bird's eye view. Because our policies were so well designed, executed, and implemented, our inflation, and you can see the trend, is well within the range. These Americans and the Europeans and the British, while they were taking care of the global policy, And during COVID, teasing us, they were saying you will have roads full of dead people. You do not have the money for giving medicines to them. And we did it. And none of the roads had dead bodies there because we laser beamed our support, medical and financial. These guys were very profligate, throwing money. Anybody who has studied economics will tell you when you pump in money, inflation will result. That's exactly what happened. Their 30-year average is 2%. Their inflation rose to 9 and 10%. And then they had to raise the interest rates. Now they are facing recession. Every day there's a story, will they face a recession? Where did that global responsible behavior go now? Which they would come and preach to us, that you have to be globally responsible. When they were throwing their money out and inflation happened, we were telling them, don't blow your money. India set an example of very frugal expenditure, but laser beamed, very effective during COVID. And when they raise their interest rates, like there is no tomorrow, they can face the recession, the rich countries. But where is the global responsibility when it impacts us? Because if their economies go down, our exports go down. So absolutely global irresponsible behavior. That is the global food price inflation. India very much under control. Okay. So broadly, I've given you an idea that Viksit Bharat has challenges. This is the chart on India's GDP at constant price, and you can see we are doing very well. But if you look at year to year, there are fluctuations, which is okay. We suffer body fluctuation on daily basis. Sometimes you feel very strong, sometimes you feel weak, sometimes you feel weak in the morning, but little weak in the evening, and that is okay. This is the per capita income. I've already told you we have a long way to go, but we are moving upwards. The fluctuations in per capita income are also heavy. The challenge of an economist is to contain the volatility in these fluctuations. Like for a medical doctor, the challenge is that your blood pressure should stay within a range, your sugar should stay within a range. For an economist, the challenge is growth should stay within a range, should not fluctuate too widely, and that's what the monetary and fiscal policy are all about. When it comes to sectoral growth, agriculture and industry, agriculture is doing reasonably well, and everything is, and I've plotted this from 50-51 onwards, but if you focus on the last few decades, you will see that services, and even in the morning, there was a discussion when Dr. Vishal mentioned that Karnataka does very well on services, India is doing very well on services. Gross FDI is a concern. But if you look up the data released yesterday by Government of India, Ministry of Finance, the gross FDI is doing very well, but the latest data as on February 2025. This of course is plotted 2023, little dated, but if you look up the February 25 FDI, gross is doing well, net is still worrisome because of the global uncertainties. The current account deficit I've already told you, we are under 2.5. We had an aberration here in some years. Sorry, I think something went wrong. I'll take a minute, they'll correct it for me, I suppose. Yeah, thank you. Okay. There is a depreciation in the Indian rupee. As an economist, I think that should depreciate and it should cross 100 because a depreciated value gives me an edge in exports. I'm not shy of a depreciated rupee. We are already at 100 to a pound. Nothing wrong if we go 100 to a dollar. By the way, the Chinese use the depreciated currency and they artificially kept it at a very low rate to compete globally and make a global edge in the markets, export markets. But if you want to look at the recent episode, I must mention We are not the only country which suffered depreciation. American economy has created lots of uncertainty in the world. Many currencies have depreciated. To that extent, it goes to the credit of the policymakers in India that Indian currency has not depreciated by that much. I'm now entering the last phase of my presentation. I want to show you, and this probably would sound a little repetitive for some of you, that we have fantastic human resources. But these fantastic human resources need to be engaged. If you don't engage them, they will indulge into negative activities. Be it in the central India, where they take to moist activities, or in North India, where they take to drugs. You have to ensure proper engagement, hands and mind engaged, only then you will find they will contribute into economic growth, otherwise there will be negative economic growth. We are doing very well on demographics. If you look at the age profile, till 2047, 2050, we will do well. Then the aging starts, and then we start looking downwards. As you can see, between 2030 and 2050, the working age population, I do not know if that working age definition can change from 59 to 69, very much possible. But that turning point is coming around 46, 47. You can see the same in the last three columns. Population above 60 years. Population, 20% of the Indian population below 60 years is a big number, a worrisome number. We have to give them pension, medical facilities and all that. So we have this limited window of demographic dividend. Within this limited window, we need to maximize. Great country, lots of diversity in density of population, different states, still doing well and peaceful existence. Literacy levels improved from 51 onwards. Substantive changes in literacy level. Infant mortality has also improved. Some parts in the country are very, very good on health. Kerala is one example. There are other parts in the country which are lagging behind. UP is the worst case which needs to be corrected on infant mortality. Lots of scope for development up there. Drinking water and other facilities are improving, but it's unbelievable that even today every house doesn't have the provision of fresh drinking water. Poverty, this is the figures for 11-12, latest research, and that good research has come from the IMF by some Indian scholars, show poverty levels are coming down. The worst poverty is behind us now. About 5 to 6% of the people are in that typical poverty, but otherwise on poverty, we have taken care, food is being given to almost everybody free of cost. Different languages, different cultures, but market is one. I travel across the country very extensively. I see no difference in advertisements and consumption patterns. So I feel very good that in a single country, continent size, but the market is the same. I think ours is the most unique country, which has so many languages, which are so different from each other. Still, it's a continent. If you look at, and this again is a very unique country that we have, where we believe in diversity, and we have all sort of religions here, and we happily accommodate them and celebrate each other's festivals and have fun all the year round. If you look state-wise, where the dominance is there, I don't think there is any other country which parallels us. The huge size of the country and the diversity and the tolerance, respect for all that we show. I've already mentioned that capital expenditure plays a very big role in intergenerational growth, and here is the data which shows during COVID, we had the courage to encourage capital expenditure. The deficit glide path is on the way. We'll of course not be at 3%, which is the Maastricht Treaty, which those guys who invented it also don't believe in it. But of course, we are cautious of every rupee that is being spent. On employment, I would welcome you to the study which has been released by the government yesterday. The unemployment data shows that we are now not that bad on unemployment. When it comes to youth unemployment, yes, in our country, youth unemployment, but by the time they're 30, they settle down. I believe one of the reasons of youth unemployment being very high is because we give them lots of time and opportunities for building their careers, and they sit in all types of exams and prepare for those exams, which in a way delay their final settlement. Artificial intelligence has been discussed a lot. I would invite you to the website of EGROW, where I am the CEO. We have had lots of sessions on artificial intelligence. My own belief is, if we have to be Viksit and we need to engage everyone and we need employment, artificial intelligence will have to be selectively brought into India. I cannot afford an army of unemployed people. And at EGROW, we had Michael Spence, the Nobel laureate, who's considered a pioneer in artificial intelligence. We asked him that question directly, and he said, it's you and your country and your policymakers. How much of artificial intelligence do you want to be brought in? And therefore, I think we have to be prudent in its application. We are the fastest growing economy. This point I've already stressed a number of times, and it's coming because of very good capital formation. Government is contributing into that capital formation in a big way. Inflation has been within the range. The financial sector has also been, and yesterday's release from the Government of India showed, the non-performing assets, gross non-performing assets, are less than 3%, which is, globally speaking, a very good number. So this is my second last point. Given this situation that I've just narrated to you, we have the best regulators, the Reserve Bank, insurance regulator, SEBI, Provident Fund. We have the best regulators. We have 2 stock exchanges, 5,000 each companies listed up there. Whatever you say, we are growing around 7%, which is the fastest, though I'm saying we have the potential to grow much higher. Single large company, single large country, working like a company, one market, and whatever be the political ideologies, elections every year, 3 or 4, but there is stability. This is so unique and very, very unique for the whole world. Yes, corruption is disruptive. Still in our country, we need to take care of it. Demonetization did give us a jolt, but gave us a lesson. And demonetization didn't happen. You are welcome to read my work on demonetization. We have been trying to handle corruption before India's independence. The first story of demonetization happens in 1945. The Reserve Bank comes into existence in 1935. 10,000 rupee notes were issued at that time. The British found that the money tax, which has to be sent to Her Majesty, has come down. They demonetized 10,000 rupee note. This is before independence. And after independence also we've done efforts, but striking at corruption was a big challenge. So demonetization has its own place in India's history. Well, in this journey of Viksit, like Japan had its challenges, China, we are seeing it every day, has its challenges. We will also have challenges. But I always say, what is a life without a challenge? An interesting life has interesting challenges. Challenges will come our way. But to be Viksit, to be developed, to come out victorious, we will have to use our strategies as we did for Pokhran. And only then we will get the status of Viksit. Thank you.
Sir said that sir has deviated from the topic, but it was more of a motivational talk on Viksit Bharat. Thank you so much, sir. I think all of us could feel that it was with the challenges what we are, we can proudly say, yes, we are Indians. And I think it is always the challenge of the afternoon speakers. Sir was mentioning that nobody will yawn. I think, sir, we can say that forget about snoozing. Nobody, I think I can challengingly tell that nobody yawned also. It was such interesting sessions in the afternoon. Thank you so much, sir. Any questions? Yeah. Mike, please.
Sir, I listen many lectures you organize under EGROW. Many of may not be knowing, sir, regularly organize the lectures relating to contemporary Indian economy by inviting stalwarts, including Nobel laureates. If you just type Google EGROW, you will get all recorded lectures also. If somebody have missed it, you can listen to that. I'm so happy. I was not expecting that. I'm so happy today that you are here in Harvard. And really, as you have said, sir has given a wonderful motivational talk. How, as an academician, we also need to take part in taking our country to Viksit Bharat. It is everybody's responsibility, he has said. This is what we need to define what is nationalism. Nationalism, in my opinion, let us take part in the country's development process by working hard. Thank you very much for giving a wonderful talk. As you have said, to make some arithmetical calculations, just I was thinking myself, you said even double-digit growth may not be enough to reach our per capita income to the $14,000 by 2047. We need to make more. As you mentioned, China experienced double-digit growth of more than 35 years. One of the reasons is huge inflow of FDI. Cumulative FDI of China is, I think, more than $2.5 trillion. You just imagine a country which has FDI of 2.5 trillion, almost near to our GDP. I think we need that kind of big push reforms in this country. I don't know when it will happen. Thank you, sir.
Niranjan from Department of Anthropology, Karnataka University, Harvard. I'm PhD scholar. So I would like to know from you that we have been seeing in news about the decreased private investment in Indian economic sector. What is your take on that of private participation, private investment in Viksit Bharat? Thank you.
So myself, Karthik from University of Agricultural Science, Harvard. And my question is, so we are topping in the economy, and we from scarce to we are leading to surplus in food production, but still in hunger index we are in 105th position with 127 countries. What is the reason, sir?
Misnomer, and if you simply Google and say global hunger index is a misnomer, you will find my name. I've written series of articles. The parameters that they use, where is the question of hunger? Which Indian is lying empty stomach these days? You can tell me there is a problem with the nutrition that they have, but that's not what is part of that index. And if you go deep and if you read my other articles on global hunger index, you will see that this global hunger index concept was written by a 26-year-old boy doing PhD, and suddenly these Western policymakers, because they like to show us down all the time, they jumped on it and said, wow, this is fantastic, let's beat India. It's totally wrong. Now, as we are talking, I've submitted a proposal to NITI Aayog and said, I will do the calculation of a hunger index the way it is scientifically designed, where hunger will mean hunger. And then let's see which country comes where. Right? So, but there's so much of literature, and therefore I can say that's a misnomer. I don't agree with that at all. The question which you asked and that is the question I've answered on Doordarshan today morning in my interview, exactly that question, but I'll repeat the answer. You're welcome to see the detailed answer on Doordarshan. So the point is, you and me, if we know that the interest rate is high and it is going to come down sooner or later, will we like to invest in factory or buy a new bus or a truck? No, because we know by tomorrow, day after, interest rate will come down. Now, there was so much of hike in our interest rates in the last 2 years after the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. When the Fed did it, we matched Fed step by step, which was not really necessary, but we did it. And we had our own reasons and justification, otherwise capital will flow out, and we had to do it, so we did it. But we all knew that the interest rate is an artificial higher level. Sooner or later there will be correction. Now that the correction has taken place, the new governor has come, they have had a new look at the economic policy, the interest rates have started coming down. Now as the one interest rate cycle of lowering has happened, 2 more are expected. So I am expecting that by June, you have the next policy in April, and then the next policy will come in June. After the June policy, when interest rate would be brought down at least by 50 basis point more, if not 75, then people start having confidence that, okay, now the interest rate will not come down further, I can increase. In the meantime, the Trump episode of tariff war has happened. So much of uncertainties in the global market. I was expecting the Fed to lower the interest. They did not, because they said while inflation fears are over, tariff has gone up. And because of tariff, inflation can go up, and therefore interest rates have to be maintained high. In any case, with the new government, I think who's willing to not match America step by step, interest rates in India are looking downwards. If America continues a tariff war in the next few months, okay, but if you go with the example of Trump 1, after a few months of taking this aggressive position, he compromised when China agreed to more agriculture imports, right? Same thing is going to happen now also. So once he compromises, then again once there is certainty in the market, the interest rates in America and obviously India will also come down. Therefore, my own assumption is that by June or by September, you will see that the private sector investment will start growing. Capital formation from the government side is already picking up, which crowds in, and therefore, as I see, I look at it in a corrective measure now, and this aberration that took place is the story of the past. I've suddenly forgotten your question. Just give me a hint.
To the write-off.
Yes.
Has been.
This write-off story is again, I was asked that question on Janta TV 2 days back. I've given a detailed answer, but I'll share that answer with you. 16 lakh crore is the write-off, am I right? Okay, 90. Whatever figure you want to put, I am totally comfortable. Have you noticed, firstly, the write-off does not mean forgiveness. It still sits in the balance sheet, though the balance sheet has been clean, but the person to whom write-off has been told, it's not that he has been left off the hook. The banks, it's only from the banks. The banks will still chase him and try to recover as much as possible. Sometimes they recover the 100% of it, and it goes straight into the profit of the bank. So thinking that this write-off is forgiven, that thinking is wrong. It's not forgiven. It's only an accounting exercise which bankers do to clean their balance sheet. That's all. More than that, these people for whom it has been written off, do you know the amount of credit which has been given to them? On that base of huge credit, only this much has been written off. I'll give you one illustration. Total subsidy in the last 10 years that has been given, total subsidy, is 3 times more than the write-off. And I'm only talking of subsidy. If I add the total amount of banking credit given to the private sector, write-off amount is very, very minuscule of that amount. The third point, as I'm going to grow, economy is going to grow, who's going to create jobs? Police will say, I have cameras. Army will say, I have drones. Musk is saying, why do you even have fighter pilots? I'll prepare big fighter planes which will move remotely. You don't need to put a man there. Employment opportunities in the government sector obviously will shrink. UK has reduced its civil servants by 2,000 people just 2 days back. Where are the jobs going to come from? From the private sector. So if you look at the jobs being created by the private sector, especially the ones who are being written off, not forgiven, who are being written off, imagine the employment that they have created in the country directly and indirectly by creating a global supply chain or a domestic supply chain with backward forward linkages, the employment opportunities that they have created, then you balance this write-off amount against that and you find it's peanuts. So if you have to take a 360-degree holistic view of the economy, the role of the private sector and how much of it is being written off. I'll give you one more illustration. I as a businessman invest something and then I expect lots of return on it, not only for myself but my future generations also. So I'm creating an intergenerational asset. My own thing is at stake, my reputation is at stake. Now, in any business, anywhere in the world, there are non-performing assets, which is assumed that certain loans will go wrong despite your skin in the game, your reputation in the game, your intergenerational calculation in the game. Worldwide, it's a phenomenon. Everybody knows that something will go wrong. We take admission in an engineering college, 100% intake does not graduate. So in the medical college, 100% don't graduate. Somewhere something goes wrong and 95% graduate, but 5% will either fall out or many things will happen. So in the banking industry. So the banking industry is geared to have provisions for that mishap. So that does not impact the trajectory of the banking sector nor the trajectory of the growth. It is assumed. No, that question is faulty. If you look up my research which I have done at IIM Bangalore, there are working papers where I have done, where I have shown that even in the private sector banks, there are very high non-performing assets, even in the private sector banks. But these private sector banks, where do they operate? They operate in creamy places. They'll operate in metropolitans. Where do the public sector banks work? They work in the remotest parts of the country. Whom do the private sector banks go and lend? Creamy layer of people and easy loans. Whom do the public sector banks go and lend? The most difficult, challenging loans on infrastructure. So, the risk which the public sector banks take in extending credit, types of credit and to the types of people and the geographical location is far different from the private sector bank. And that working paper is on the website of IIM Bangalore. You are welcome to see it. And this presentation that I am now sharing with you, this aspect, I did with the government of India. And I told them that look, you should fund a research study which showed if I had saddled you in the private sector banks, if I had saddled you with the social responsibilities of opening in the remotest parts, lending for unknown infrastructure projects in unknown areas in Leh and Ladakh, then what would be your profits? Has anybody factored that in? No. I have made an attempt in that working paper to say that these are apples and oranges. Private sector banks operate in a very, very creamy layer. The public sector banks operate in very challenging areas. So therefore, if you try to factor the risks they take and load it onto the balance sheet of private sector banks, you will find public sector banks are far, far more responsible. Don't forget, madam, I must mention, I know you are standing here to close it. I must mention, I've chaired a public sector bank for 5 years. And before that, she mentioned in my bio, I was on the board of National Housing Bank and NABARD Financial Services. Far more responsible. You know the debate that is happening these days? I should work for 60 hours or 70 hours or 40 hours. Employees in public sector institutions leave aside 5% or 10%, work more than 100 hours. Far more efficient. So therefore, have a look at the working paper that I have written. You have my email. I'm happy to answer your question, even if you question me 2 weeks later. Thank you. So, when I touched upon this, that I haven't seen State Bank of India as the largest bank. I've not seen State Bank of India at 2047. I've not seen Bank of Baroda at 2047. While the Prime Minister is speaking for the last 2 years, he has the government to work on it. But why is the financial sector not working on it? So in the last year's budget, the government said that they want to come out with a plan of a forward-looking financial sector. Now remember, people like me and you probably also know Narsimham 1 and Narsimham 2. They had come out at the end of 95 and 97 a study on what should be the banking sector. That study, time has come to repeat it. So the government of India in the last budget, not this budget, February 1, but earlier budget, said, I was invited for one of the meetings, so I am aware that they are already working on that plan of a roadmap for the financial sector, something they are thinking about, but not. Now your other question, which I think is more interesting, is the mergers. What the mergers done with an objective of Viksit. So mergers were done with multiple objectives. One of the objectives was building economies of scale, which is very, very important. Knowing that technological developments will be fast and rapid and necessary, the amount of money that would be required to be put into the technology would be massive. So you needed a bank which can really take care of that part. Please remember, despite the merger, SBI and ICICI are amongst the largest banks, but Citibank is still ahead of us. So if we have to take up the global competition, we need to have a size which competes with them. We need to have managers. We need to have managing directors which can think, plan, and execute with strategy that size of a bank that we still don't have. So like you used to go for hunting expeditions earlier to make sure that you are alert and you are capable, the soldiers used to be encouraged. Similarly, I think the government also wanted that if you want to globally integrate into the financial world, you have to have banks which are able to compete with them. Otherwise, as you open up, they will come and buy you or eat you up. So there were multiple objectives of that merger. But I think the most important thing is the mergers have created big banks. And those banks are now profitable. Initially, there was some teething problems, like in any marriage would happen. But now you find that the banks have settled down and they are operating and delivering. So I think the next round of mergers could happen. You and me read it in the newspapers all the time. And if they happen, there's nothing wrong with it. My own feeling is the country needs 4 or 5 big banks of the size of Citibank. So we should be able to take headlong Citibank. In case they come and threaten us, we should just eat them. And then we should have smaller banks which are catering to the local requirements, and then we have cooperative banks and the complete structure. Let's see, the government is already thinking, as I understand from the last budget. Let's see what they come up.
I request Gaurisha sir to give the concluding remarks.
For me, it is very difficult task after listening to Dr. Charan Singh. The enthusiasm what he has, which I had seen during his time in IIM Bangalore, the same enthusiasm and energy even today. I think that's amazing. So he can talk for hours with statistics, with that same confidence, and answering every question of the audience patiently. So I think recent visit to Delhi also I'm able to meet sir. There also he was given 15 minutes time I think in that IMA conference, but forcefully had put forward his viewpoints. And again, as Nagur sir said, on the Dharwad stage today, he is able to give the complete picture of the Indian financial sector, the growth pattern, and the what is we are estimated for next couple of years in our growth journey, with lot of statistics, and that is evidence based. Every day he does that research. I think before go to the media also he will go with some kind of a preparation, with looking at the data, analysis of the data. So with an authoritative person on the economic policy, we had seen such few economists in country who contributed to the policy development and also the growth of the nation in many dimensions. And I like the idea of what sir proposed today. Are we confident enough to look at 2047? So 100 years of Indian independence, and we would like to go to the club of developed nation. First thing is very psychological one. Are we confident to say, yes, we will reach there? I think from the banking sector, he has given the example that whether the banks are ready, whether they have plan. I think every sector, including the education sector, I think whether we really aspiring in terms of our work, not just the whatever that we are talking, speaking, really are we ready with our plans to reach that particular goal? So country's goal comes from the community effect, because all of us, if we plan it, I think then only it is possible. So otherwise there is no country without the people. Second one is the courage. So I think both these C's will go together, the confidence and the courage. I think that's very much required. So already we know that we have that capacity and capabilities. Another C, what sir talked about, 3 C's. Interestingly, I think we are all observing how the Indian economy is moving. When 2008 recession, when I think that time even I was just took the profession, lot of imbalances in our economic exchequers and things were happening, and many IT people used to lose the jobs and lot of ups and downs in the economy. But still, I think 4 years we had a very tough time, but still I think we have not faced the great difficulties as West faced it, Europe and USA. So what is that Indian economy, something which is very rooted into the Indianness and very unique to India. I think that is the very interesting thing, and you will not find it anywhere. So I think some of the statistics says earlier, now it is actually the different statistics altogether by promotion of lot of things from the banks and financial sector. Indian savings is very huge, but investment is not the great percentage. We are the great savers. Many look when compared to the many of the Western countries, our savings, and that too unaccountable savings, is very great. So that's the reason families are able to sustain with the all difficult times. So I was used to quote my mother example. I think she is the greatest planner. So Professor M.K. Sridhar, as a part of ICSR study, made her as a case study in his report. So what a fantastic financial plan with 20,000, 30,000 salary. So planning for 20 years, savings and putting money, including Dharmasthala, Pundi to the children education to then what is next. So fantastically planned. She had a diary, even today she has the diary with her. So that gives complete picture for last 30, 40 years, how she managed the home without earning a single income. That is all income used to come from father, but how she made savings, investment, expenditure, and then now she is having a little happy life. So I think this is the story of all of us. I think in your home also you have such kind of stories. That's the strength of the Indian economy, Indian families. I think the only thing is we have to take it to the next level as a cumulative effect and contribute to the country's growth. So yeah, I think it is very true that our potential is more than what we are performing today, as Charan Singh sir said. So I think national education policy, many times as a part of the policy making, I was chief consultant for the NEP 2020 committee. So a lot of things even discussed about the how this economic growth and the education links, and how education should contribute to the economy. Most of the time we demand from the economy. I think economy also have a lot of demand from the education sector. So how to reap this benefit of dividend, demographic dividend. So we talk a lot on this. Unless we have a very young population, unless otherwise we train, we give proper education to this young population of the country, so we cannot get the benefit of this. I think for next 30 years we will have this benefit. Then the age equation will change, then we will also face the problem. So that's the reason, what is that next 20 years we do or 30 years we do with this young population will help the India to on the growth path or on the sustainability path for next 100 years almost. So keeping in that mind, I think so all of us need to work towards that individual level. I think that's where we can contribute to the society and the whole economy. So with that note, I would like to thank Professor Charan Singh sir. Over a phone call he agreed to come, because all the way from Gurgaon he has travelled, and for him it is 1 hour session, but it is 2 days travel and stay here. So thank you very much sir. I think we had a wonderful discussion today afternoon, both at Sandeep Sastry sir's session and the Charan Singh sir session. I think we have one more session, so very particular to North Karnataka development. It's a special session in the afternoon, so I request all of you to stay back for the next session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir, for making us to think. I think all of us are teachers here, and many research scholars I can see, the future professors or the future teachers. I think you gave us the food for thought to make us to think miles to go before we sleep. Thank you so much, sir. I request Gaurisha sir to do the felicitation. The young minds.